Thank you for tuning in to Financial Fashion Talk Podcast, episode 59, and we will be discussing the importance of positive communication and the power of the tongue. Let's go.
You can't just go through it blindly or just have the emotion or passion towards something.
The power of the tongue is so important. And once I think about that, I think about a scripture that says life and death is in the power of the tongue. So how often do I speak life unto myself? So that takes me back to the most important communication that I have. And that's the communication that I have through prayer. The connection and the relationship that I have with God, it helps me throughout life. And once I start my day and once I start my endeavors off with prayer to Him, it goes in a better way, it goes in a more positive way. So my point in that is a flip side to that. I notice that when I don't pray, and we're talking about positive communication, prayer is a positive form of communication. So because of its positivity, it's going to produce positive results. And this is how I know. When I pray consistently, I have a more positive attitude. I make better decisions. I see things clearer. But when I stop praying, things start going down. I start having cloudier vision. My thoughts are more cloudy. My judgment is faltered. And the connection I want to make with that is that negative words and positive words has an effect on the brain. Prayer is a form of positive communication. And with it being positive communication, it actually have a positive effect on the brain. And so scientifically, it's a fact that positive words increase cognitive function. And what is cognitive function? Cognitive function is the brain's ability to process, learn, and understand information. Just off of positive communication. Just off of using positive words, positive statements. So on the flip side of that, if you don't start out with positive communication, if you have conversations about negativity, if you're around negativity, it's going to produce something. So negative communication. So it lowers your cognitive functions. So just by having negative communication, you're affecting your brain's ability to receive new information. So in turn, while stopping cognitive function, you're also activating your fight or flight response. And fight or flight, it kind of, that's stress and panic. That's stress and panic. So that's what I'm saying. You have to be focused on, whether your communication is effective positively or not. Because if you don't, it's going to affect you and your brain and your body and everything else in a negative way.
Like that explains a whole lot. You know what I'm saying? Because I notice, man, even with myself, man, just being transparent, when I get stressed, you know what I mean? I kind of find myself in this state of paralysis. You know what I'm saying? So like what you saying that explains a lot. So when you feed yourself negativity, your body responds. It actually locks you up.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? It's like a closed fist. And because you're actually in a place where you're not receptive. So when you're talking about success, you're actually going into a new environment. You know what I'm saying? So when you're going into a new environment, you have to learn how to maneuver totally different. You know what I'm saying? You can't do things the same way anymore. So this is why you have to reinforce your mentality with positive communication. That way, when negative does arise, you have something to combat it with. Instead of going into fight or flight mode. Now, if you're a pilot, dude, and you in the air and you run into some turbulence, now, is that gonna be beneficial for the pilot to panic? No. And you know why he's not gonna panic? Because he's been trained not to. You know what I'm saying? He studied what it is to be a pilot. He studied all the controls on the plane. So now when adversity comes or turbulence comes, he knows exactly what to do. Because he has the control in his hand. And if we can understand that we have control over our environment and creating whatever environment is that we want, we would have more positive results in life.
Hello, my podcasters. Welcome to Financial Fashion website. It's
fnfstore.com, where you can find information on our company. You can see information on the podcast and also the incremental movement. You also have inspirational and motivational apparel. Check our store out. You maybe see something you like. And you know what? Take an extra 10% off your first order by applying the discount code FNF10. Now back to the show.
So if you do fall into, frustration, or if you do fall into an instance of where you're not having the most positive communication, you can always change, the process of which you're going. Right. You can change the way you're doing things. You can change the way you're communicating, and then you can kind of reverse the way your brain is reacting to that fight or flight response. Because you got to stay out of that survival mode.
I mean, I'm sure these things have to be reinforced. You know what I'm saying? Because as we were talking about earlier, you step into these emotions and these feelings, man, and it kind of locks you up, right. So you kind of forget how to respond. You know what I mean?
Right.
So what you're saying is you actually have to build it up. So when you do find yourself running into these places, you actually remember to respond.
I know, that's why I was saying that the most important communication that a man can have is with God.
Right.
What better person could you have to lead you and give you guidance?
Right.
So that's the most important communication. We can become healthier by praying more. Right. We can become healthier by feeding ourselves positivity. Right. We can become healthier by being around people who talk about more positive things that we can grow from.
And that's what I was gonna go to. You know what I'm saying? Like, I know you said positive communication through prayer. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? That's definitely, in our book, one of the most important lines of communication.
For sure.
You know what I'm saying? So, like, and for our listeners, you know what I'm saying? What are some of the other things that can influence positive communication with others, but for the most part, yourself?
Well, first of all, it starts with you, of course.
Right.
You have to mirror some things, and you have to admit to yourself about some things. Just like I have a problem with cursing. You have to admit that you have these communication issues for you to fix them. Right. So one by one, you have to write it down like, okay, I have a communication problem in this area.
Right.
So that's going to create that awareness.
Right.
The brain has to get that signal, because you're telling your brain, hey, problem, I need to change this.
Right.
Thank you for tuning in. See you guys next week for episode 60. Don't forget to check out our YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook. The Kings is out.